Hello, everyone. Today we'll be presenting our cultural spotlight on Mexico, which has both a rich and diverse culture shaped by indigenous heritage, Spanish influence, and strong values centered around family, communication, and tradition. In this presentation, we will be exploring Mexico's cultural overview, values and tradition, language and communication styles, as well as how these elements influence intercultural communication. By better understanding these aspects, we can recognize how cultures shape the way people interact and communicate in everyday life. Passing it on to Maria.
To start off, I'll provide a brief overview of Mexico's geographic location and history. Mexico is located in North America, bordered by the United States to the north and Guatemala and Belize in the south. It is also surrounded by the Pacific Ocean on the west and the Gulf of Mexico on the east. The country has a diverse geography, including deserts, mountains, forests, and coastal regions, which contribute to regional cultural differences. Historically, Mexico was shaped by indigenous civilizations such as Aztec and Maya, which developed complex societies before Spanish colonization in the 16th century. Spain colonized Mexico and introduced new systems of government, language, and religion. Mexico later gained independence from Spain in 1821, and its culture today reflects a blend of indigenous and Spanish influences. I will be passing it to Catherine.
Hi. Um, Mexico has a population of approximately 127 million people and is one of the most culturally diverse countries in the world. It is home to 68 recognized languages, including Spanish as the main language, along with many indigenous languages such as Nahuatl, Maya, Mixtec, and Zapotec. This linguistic diversity reflects the strong presence of indigenous heritage alongside modern influences. Overall, Mexican culture is shaped by historical, linguistic, and social factors, which influence communication styles and everyday interactions. Next, Maria will discuss culture, values, and traditions.
I'm going to talk about some of the core values and Mexican beliefs in their culture. One of the most important values is family. In Mexican culture, family is central to everyday life. Elders are often seen as the head of the household, and there is a strong expectation that family members support one another. Because of this, it is very common for children to live at home well into adulthood, which helps maintain close family bonds. Religion also plays a major role in Mexican culture. Roman Catholicism has been an influential since the 16th century, when it was introduced by Spanish conquistadors. Today, about 83% of the population identifies as Roman Catholic. One of the most important religious figures is the Virgin of Guadalupe, who is highly respected patron saint in Mexico. However, religion in Mexico is not completely uniform. There are other denominations and many traditions blend Catholic beliefs with indigenous practices. A great example of this is el Dia de los Muertos, which we will talk about it later. Another key value is respect, especially toward family, traditions, and community. People place an importance on welcoming others warmly, honoring long-standing traditions, and appreciating things like art, music, and food. There is also a strong work ethic, balanced with enjoying life, simply pleasures, and spending time with loved ones. Now I will be talking about tradition, rituals, and celebrations. We will start off with Independence Day. Let's look at one of Mexico's most important national celebrations, Mexican Independence Day. This holiday is celebrated on September 16 and marks Mexico's independence from Spain in 1810. It is one of the most significant national holidays in the country. Celebrations are lively and include parades, fireworks, music, and public festivals. Many communities host fiestas where people gather to celebrate with food, dancing, and cultural performances. In addition, people often honor their local traditions and religious figures during this time. Overall, the holiday brings communities together and highlights a strong sense of national pride and unity. Another important celebration is in Mexico is Our Lady of Guadalupe Day, which takes place on December 12th. This holiday honors the Virgin of Guadalupe, who is considered the patron saint of Mexico. She is a powerful symbol of faith, identity, and unity for many Mexican people. On this day, many people travel to Mexico City to visit her shrine, known as La Villa. This pilgrimage is an important spiritual journey for many believers. In addition to religious ceremonies, communities celebrate with gatherings, music, and fireworks. This holiday shows how deeply religion is connected to Mexican culture and daily life. Finally, I will talk about Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, which is celebrated on November 1st and also the 2nd. This holiday is honoring and remembering loved ones who have passed away. Instead of being a sad occasion, it is a celebration of life and memory. Families build altars that they call ofrendas, where they place food, candles, and offerings for the spirits of their loved ones. It is believed that the spirits return during this time to visit and enjoy these offerings. The celebration is also known for its bright and colorful decorations, including marigold flowers and papel picado, which is some sort of thin paper that they cut into pieces with scissors to make decorations. Many people paint their faces or dresses like Katrina, which is a symbol representing acceptance of death as a natural part of life. Dia de los Muertos is a great example of how Mexican culture blends indigenous traditions with Catholic influences, creating something unique and also meaningful. Next, I will be passing this to Katherine so she can explain about language and communication.
Got to unmute. Hello, so I did the language and communication portions. Officially, the government recognizes about 68 languages. The main language that everyone would immediately recognize would be Spanish. They're spoken Spanish mixing in many borrowed words and slang. An example of slang usage might be "güey," meaning something like our usage of dude. Something that can be found is the usage of English close to the border and Mexican Sign Language among their deaf community. But it is noticeably not used in educational settings, or at least not as commonly used. There are 63 recognized native Mexican languages, but out of respect, I will not mispronounce them once again. But those on the slide are the top 5 spoken with their numbers as well. Next is the verbal communication styles. It is safe to say that Spanish is a high context language with an addition of being indirect. An example of the high context language I prepared a saying. I forgot what the saying was. Ahí está el deltale. This is meaning it literally is there it is where the detail is, and this is commonly said to acknowledge when someone finds the contextual hint. Though in reference of the indirect culture, it is said that many of them can struggle in giving direct refusals as it will seem rude or blunt, and they'd rather save face. They can also lean towards formally speaking, especially if talking to someone older or a patriarch of the family. But using diminutives is common when speaking to younger members or closer companions to appear softer. Though in group settings, they do tend to grow loud and talk over one another to express their enjoyment of the situation. Related are the nonverbal communication norms. They will use silence as a mean of respect and using nods and sparing eye contact to show that they are still listening. Though they tend to use affection commonly with family or people they're familiar with, there are variations that they can still show without being familiar, like handshakes in formal or professional settings. Though once you get more familiar, you might get a cheek-to-cheek kiss where they just press their cheeks together between men and women, and abrazo between two men, an abrazo being a handshake and then an arm wrapped around to pat you on the back. And among women, they often link arms together. In terms of more textbook vocabulary that we've discussed among the class, proxemics, they're only really a few inches closer to than Americans, but this can still seem uncomfortable amongst people more used to space. In time management, they fall under polychronic, referring to value and prioritize close bonds, and even struggling to meet with you if you're not close with them. Gestures were something I got a lot of information on. I only chose three to show. They're on the slides, going from left to right. First, you get the a sign of appreciation or thank you. They often can use their arm to move while keeping the hand gesture still, and can often use verbal words to pair with it. Next is asking to split something. It can be a check and often used with people you're close with and is paired with a popular joking statement of mokate no. Um, Finally is the gesture for a lot. This is moving. This is often a moving back and forth gesture, and they use it from everything from food to heat. Finally, to cover emotional displays, due to Mexico's preference for saving face and harmony, there is an acceptance for mostly positive emotions, like joy or laughter. They prefer the negative emotions to be kept behind closed doors with no one to witness. But with men, it's even less common for it as they follow the macho man stereotype. Next, we're passing it on to Brianna.
Now I'll be focusing on intercultural communication and how cultural differences influence the way people interact. Mexican culture is generally considered collectivist, meaning that family relationships and group harmony are prioritized over individual goals. Because of this, communication tends to be high context where meaning is understood through tone, shared experiences, and relationships instead of direct wording. This means that instead of saying things directly, communication often relies on subtle cues and mutual understanding. As a result, communication in Mexican culture may appear indirect to individuals from low context cultures, such as the United States, whereas people are more used to clear indirect expression. These differences in communication styles can lead to misunderstandings in intercultural interactions. For example, phrases like ahorita may not be meant literally, but someone unfamiliar with the cultural context might interpret it as unclear or unreliable. At the same time, direct communication styles can be perceived as rude or overly aggressive in Mexican culture, where maintaining respect and harmony is very important. These differences connect to the idea of face saving, where communication is shaped by preserving relationships and avoiding conflict rather than being completely direct. Identity also plays an important role. There is a distinction between avowed identity, which is how individuals see themselves, and ascribed identity, which is how others label them. People from Mexican backgrounds may experience stereotypes about ambition or professionalism that do not reflect their true identity. In addition, language is an important part of identity, as many individuals switch between Spanish, indigenous languages, and English depending on the situation. This shows how communication and identity are closely connected in intercultural settings. To improve intercultural communication, it's important to develop cultural competence. One key strategy is active listening, which means paying attention to not only words, but also to tone, nonverbal cues, and context. Another important concept is cultural humility, which involves recognizing that our own perspective is not universal and being open to learning from others. It is important to be adaptable and adjust communication styles depending on the cultural context. By practicing empathy and being more aware of differences, we can reduce misunderstandings and build stronger, more respectful relationships across cultures. To conclude, Mexican culture highlights the importance of family respect and tradition and strong community connections. Throughout this presentation, we explored how cultural values, communication styles, and social norms shape everyday interactions and relationships. We also show how differences in communication, such as indirect versus direct styles, can lead to misunderstandings when viewed through different cultural perspectives. However, these differences are not flaws, they reflect deeper cultural values and priorities. By developing cultural awareness, empathy, and adaptability, we can communicate more effectively and build stronger, more respectful relationships across cultures. Overall, understanding culture allows us to move beyond assumptions and better appreciate how people communicate and interact in a diverse and global society. Here are our references used, and thank you.